not buying it at all. He's a winner, man. Russ is going to be our quarterback for years to come. This morning, however, a new report has surfaced just how much Wilson has been frustrated with the Seahawks offense. He stormed out of a meeting about how to fix the offense after he felt like his suggestions, they were being dismissed. LeVar Arrington, do you think the drama in Seattle has been overblown?
Well, drama is generally overblown, but there's real drama that's a part of the overblown drama of the drama. So when you look at what's going on with Russell Wilson here, we all know that there's that moment where Russ is sitting there at the Super Bowl watching what's taking place with Tom Brady. Every quarterback that has the type of reputation that Russ has is looking at that and feeling as though, why can't that be them? I mean, that's just human nature. So to see the reports, the speculation, all the things that are taking place right now, I think that it's somebody is trying to move the pieces on the board to get what they want to get. Is it Russ trying to get more say in who he wants on the team and who he can get on the team? Is it the Seahawks fishing Russ out there? One thing's for certain, media has always been a tool and a function for players and more so franchises to be able to let their messages be heard under the anonymity of or cover of the media. So there's truth to it. To what side, to what capacity, to what degree, I don't know. Collier sitting there saying there's zero credibility to it, zero credence to it. I don't know how long you've been in the league for, but there's always credibility to these types of reports, Chris.
Yeah, look, clearly some stuff is going on. I mean, Russ, he always has ended his interviews with what? Go Hawks. He didn't do that when he talked to Dan Patrick about being frustrated with getting hit so much. All right, and the reports are that, I mean, this latest one, obviously, he had a beef with the team about not listening to him over the play calls, but there was also a report that he spoke to the team after the season and wasn't happy with the way they responded to his concerns. So there is some smoke there. And like you said, there's drama. And then I think, LeVar, also, some of these other teams are also putting this out there. When we saw the report the other day about, it'll take 3 first-round picks, that was coming from other teams. They want to stir it up in Seattle. They love to get this thing popping to where it becomes so bad that Russell Wilson does become available. So there's some of that going on as well. So I agree with you, LeVar, in that there is some drama. There are some issues. However, we're big boys. All right, this is the National Football League. We're dealing with grown men. Put on your big boy pants, talk it out, and work it out. I'm sorry. I said it the other day. I'm not trading a franchise quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Hall of Fame bound quarterback who is 32 years old and has maybe a decade left in his prime because he's frustrated, because he's disappointed, because he may even be upset. Let's work this thing out. Everything else they need to fix, the offensive line, the defense, the running game, all of that is more fixable, easier fixed than getting a franchise quarterback, the talent and caliber of Russell Wilson.
That's true.
The Seattle Seahawks went from 1976 to 2011 without a franchise quarterback. They got one, and they got their first Super Bowl. So I'm with Collier. Collier knows, I'm sure, about the blow-up that The Athletic reported about, and he's saying that this happens. LeVar, you know this. Guys get in arguments. Guys get in fights. Teammates, coaches, and players. And when it gets out in the media, it does become a bigger deal because the headline, Arrington and Brown, had an argument in the locker room. That makes it.
I got stole by Trotter in the locker room, well, in the meeting room one time. Punk. Yeah, but yeah, it did happen before. It was real drama.
It's bigger in the headline, on the news, on the television shows, then it might be in real life. And so I'm saying there is some drama. There are some things that need to be worked out, but they can be worked out.
Chris, here's the interesting point. Pete Carroll has always preached, hey, speak your mind, dating back to USC. I want my locker room open. I want Michael Bennett to speak out when he feels passionate about a subject. Richard Sherman, say what's on your mind. Earl Thomas, you too. So now Russell Wilson, very unhappy, says a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden it's, whoa, Russ, what are you doing? Why are you upsetting the apple cart? I think all along I thought there's no way they're trading Russ, but you look at it and you're like, is there a little disrespect going on here on the Seahawks side? Russell Wilson's played there 9 seasons, okay? Never been under 500. 8 years they've gone to the playoffs. And then all of a sudden Russ is unhappy because for the first half of the season, right, he's the MVP of the league. It's all we talked about, first 6-7 weeks. Russell Wilson is cooking. I love it. He's the MVP. He has 2 bad games, right? A clunker against the Bills, 4 turnovers, and the following week against the Rams, another 3-turnover game. And all of a sudden, Pete Carroll pulls it away. And LeVar, I was shocked when I saw this. We're running the football. No more throwing. And Russell Wilson, the second half of the season, looked unhappy. They fire the offensive coordinator. And LeVar, they had Russell Wilson sit in on meetings for the new offensive coordinator. He had input. And for him to still be unhappy, I'm starting to think there's a little more smoke here than anticipated. Like, it just feels like an unhappy marriage. I wouldn't know what that feels like, of course. I'm in a great marriage. But I'm sure some people out there can relate. Hey, man, when things go off the rails, do you meet and figure it out? Or do you just part ways and end it? I don't know, LeVar. It almost feels like maybe Russ gets his way and is leaving town?
Well, I first and foremost, I do not believe this is about Russ trying to force his way out of town. I made this point before when we talked about this subject in a past show. This is getting the attention on Russ to have an MVP campaign. You talked about how he started fast. He was cooking early in the season. It was an MVP candidacy taking place. Those turnovers, everybody said, throw it away. He threw it away. And you can't have interception games like Russ did and then be able to continue to compete to try to get the MVP award. That is basically the last award that he needs to get to truly solidify what has been a brilliant career. I believe that in the back of Russ's mind, maybe even front of mind, if he's being honest when he has these conversations, it's because I need to have a legacy play, which he did mention. It's about your legacy. And he wants to leave his legacy with an MVP award connected to it. And I think if they're not listening to what it is that he's saying, him getting an MVP award it's not like basketball. You can singularly play really well and be rewarded and be looked at because you can play defense and offense. You can play both sides of the court. There's a lot of things you can do. In football, his job is his job. And it takes every other guy on that team, the 10 guys on the side with him, the guys on the defense to do what they need to do for Russ to be able to have a fair opportunity to get that award. So that award is reflective of the team, not just him personally. And I think that Russell Wilson is trying to say, put me in position where I can be that top best guy in the league, be recognized for it, get that accolade. And that's going to play a whole lot into the success that we're able to have as a team as well.
I think LeVar, even more than the MVP, which obviously he'd love to have, but I think it's Super Bowls. I think he can look, in the athletic story, they talked about him being at that Super Bowl, looking at Pat Mahomes running around behind that makeshift offensive line and struggling with it. Obviously, he looked at the other side and saw Tom Brady winning his 7th Super Bowl. I think he's also looked at Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and said, Aaron Rodgers is arguably the greatest to ever won Super Bowl. Hadn't been there in a decade. And if he looks at his own path, he sees something similar. Now it's been, 6 years since he's been to the Super Bowl? And all in Seattle, they seem fine with that. They're relevant. They're making the playoffs essentially every year. They're fine with that. And Russ is saying, no, I want to win Super Bowls.